I've been asked to make a video about making a feather. Now, there are numerous others out there. Jim Linnell's is the most famous, and it's from him that I learned this. But I'm going to show you my way as well. I'll post these on my Leatherlearn blog. First of all, I've got here a nice thin 2 3-ounce veg tan. You can make it with thicker leather as well, but the 2 3-ounce makes a few steps easier. Okay, so I'm getting it wet. The amount of moisture in this case does not make too big a difference. Now you can get many patterns available. Tandy, for example, has a craft aid with numerous feathers on the craft aid, but I am gonna just freehand one here. There's numerous patterns available out there. Jim Linnell at Elk Tracks has a free feather pattern available as well. So this is going to be a fairly small one. So I first cut the center line of the feather fairly thin. It's not very deep cuts because I don't have a very deep or a thickness available, so that's just how it's done there. Then I'm just going to have the feather shape, and you can make one side less than the other. Feathers are seldom very symmetrical. Okay, so that's the cutting out part. Then I am going to first of all do the feather texture, and for that I am using a tool called a hair blade, a hair tool, and Tandy still sells these too. It's now got a black handle, but the same thing. I think the current ones in the black handle, you can actually take the tips out and put them in a swivel knife. But they will cut nice finish. I am using the rougher side of it. The other side is quite a thinner pattern, thinner lines, but I'm going to use the rougher one. Okay, so here we go. I make them roughly at a 45-degree angle. I start just with one tip touching the center, so that let's see if I can show you nice and close up. Bit of a problem here. I'm using a camera that's really close up, but there you go. That's how they're done. And I do that on both sides. All the way down to the front, and at the front I make the angle so that it goes right to the tip. So and I pull this tool all the way over that outline of the feather on the outside. It crosses that, and it goes all the way over that line, and that helps a lot. Okay, so the first 2 steps was to cut out the outlines with the swivel knife, and now the next step was to do the feathery texture with a hair blade tool. And now what I'm going to do is to lightly bevel this center line of the feather, and as heavily as I can bevel the outer line. So that's where we're going now. And as I said, the center line not very heavily. All I want to do really is get rid of that triangles left there by the hair blade tool. That's all I do on the side there, so that it's just shown as being raised above the rest of the feather, like that. And now the outer outline, and oh, and one tip here: if your leather is very thin, like what I'm working on here, put another thicker piece of leather underneath, and you can get more depth. Let's say this leather is only 2 to 3 ounce. There we go. The beveling around the outside of this feather, so all these lines, that does not need to be very neat, as long as you've got it as deep as you can get it with the thickness of leather that you have, because that will allow us entrance under the feather with a sharp blade. So that's why we actually bevel the outline of the feather at this point. So now the most nerve-wracking part of it starts, and that is being done with a nice sharp X-Acto blade. It can also be done with scalpel and blades. I just find scalpels go dull very soon, because they are made for human flesh, 1 or 2 cuts and they're done. So scalpels bit more sharp. Okay, so jeweler's rouge here on a piece of cardboard from a cereal box. I find it has the best texture for gripping the jeweler's rouge. And just a little bit of polishing each time I pick up this scalpel. This X-Acto blade, I polish it a few times just to make sure it is nice and sharp. Okay, then wipe that off. There we go. Feather. Now I hold the X-Acto blade like this. It comes out above between my little finger and the next one, and then I have it between my thumb and forefinger, which allows me to get it nice and flat and close to the leather itself, because I want a very slight angle. I don't want it to be steep like that. I want it to be really at a minimal angle right there as I cut underneath the feather. Okay, so now I start here. Sorry, I think my finger is kind of in the way. Let me give you this angle. I start there, and I focus on where the blade touches the edge of that feather. Now, what I want you to take note of, 2 things. Let me lift this guy up and show you. There we go. I want you to take note of the fact that the cutting edge is just touching the edge of the feather, and the blade is as flat as possible, close to the leather. It'll even cut or touch the sides. That's no problem. We're going to throw that away in any case. And the other thing is that the angle between where I'm going to cut to and the sharp edge of the X-Acto blade is very small, which gives me a slicing effect there, and that helps a lot too. So okay, so slowly and surely you just cut along that little edge that you've beveled so hard. And usually what I like to do here when I reach the end is to end with the blade pointing to the tip of the feather, so that I don't cut through the stem of the feather. So I end with it at that angle. Okay, and then turn it around and cut the other side of the feather there, in there, and slowly forward. Because the leather is so thin, I am actually slicing right through. I can feel the blade gliding along the marble slab, granite slab, whatever it is here. And yes, I've cut it loose there. All I do now is to place a cutting block on the end, and I cut the stem free. So there, into there, into there. Now realize that in this position where the feather ends, the feathery part and the stem get together there, I really should be transitioning from a flat cut to a straight cut that I do there. So just be very careful that when you cut that free, you don't cut through the stem of the feather. And this side there as well. And there's the feather cut free. Okay, I think I'm going to stop this one here, and then I'll make a second video going further.